All right, so now we're going to learn about advanced charting methods. Google Chart Tools is an independent system. They are used to generate charts. They have its own format. So if you want to create chart using Google Chart Tools, you say you give the data, your input data in a particular format, and that format is known as the data table format. Whenever you run your Earth Engine code with some charting function, Earth Engine converts your image collection, feature collections into a data table format and sends it to Google Chart. So if you just look at the network request that's going out, Earth Engine will do your analysis, turn your output into a data table, send it to the chart tools will generate the chart. Right? So now what we are saying is we need some custom options which Earth Engine doesn't support in any of the functions. So the chart tools API is very wide. It supports many advanced options. Earth Engine functions use only a subset of those. But now if you want to use all the different features, we'll say I'll create my own data table and I'll send that data table to Google Charts. Okay? So this is a simple format which to hold two-dimensional data. You can think of it as like your Excel spreadsheet, rows and columns. So whatever data you have and you want to chart, you can create a data table to be used with that. The column, first, it has got two parts, a column and a row. So column, you define the name of the column and the type of the column. Okay. And you define row. A row is each data row. So if you have 3 columns, you'll have each row having 3 cells and you define what value goes there. So it's a simple row and column format. So this is an example. So let's say you have a table like this. You maybe extract some data from your code. And this is what your feature collections look like. That you have one feature with a property called class, and there's class name, and then there's area. Or you have an Excel file which has 3 columns, and this is the value. So the equivalent data table format for this will look like this. So we say we have a dictionary of 2 keys. The first key is calls. This is the columns, and the second key is rows. And what are the different columns we have? Where we have 3 columns, ID of each column and the type. So the first one is a number, second one is a string, third one is a. So we define the columns, and then we define each row. So we say we have each row. Each row is a dictionary where C stands for cell. So that means there's a cell with value 0, second cell with value tree covered, third cell with value 13,000. Okay. And second row, I have a cell which first value is 1, second value is Trebland, and the third one is this. And this seems a little complex, but most of the time when you're creating, you just copy paste the format and just fill in the values. Right? You just need to say, I have a row with 3 values, fill this in. And the reason for it being complex is there are multiple things that can go here. So I'll show you how to do this. But this is a way to convert your data into the data table format. And now this data table, if you have a data like this, Google Chart Tool can directly convert this into a chart. You saw the columns have ID, right? Along with the ID, you can also specify a name of the column. And this column names will be used for labeling your axis or legends. Also, each value that we saw, you have, say, value 13,000. So this is a number, but maybe you want to display this with 13,000, right? You can also say this is the value, but this is the formatted version of the value. You can specify that along with that. Whenever you specify the formatted value, the numeric values are used for calculation, but the formatted values are used for display. So let's take this and change it. So you can see now the data table columns have one more parameter, label. So each column has a label. That means when you create a chart for this, if you want to label your x-axis as a class, it'll have the value will be used as class value, right? So you can have a more legible legends. You can see at the bottom, the rows, I have F. So I have one more key. V is 13,000, F is 13,000. That means the value is 13,000, but show it on the chart as 13,000. This is useful. We'll use this where you say I have some value, but display it as a different format on the chart, right? So this is, but for computation, like you will use this V value, F will be used for any display purpose. Okay. So again, this is an extension of the format that we learned. You can have labels, or you can have formatted value. The real reason that you want to use the data table compared to a built-in chart is that you have support for something called a column row. In Earth Engine, when you generate a table, all the rows, all the columns that you have will be used as data. So if whatever properties you have in a feature collection, let's say this is all data. But when you create a data table, you can specify optional columns that have different purpose than data. Say, what can be the different purposes? Well, you can have a column that contains a style for each row. So that means when you create a chart, you have control over how each point is displayed. You can have a custom style for each point or each data point. Right? And that will be one of the columns. So you can say I have the value, the X value is 10, Y value is 100. The style of this is red. Right? You can specify the value of style as one of the columns. And that can go with a data table. You can also specify annotations. If you want to add some labels to your charts and annotate it, you can have an annotation. This is wherever you put this point, annotate it with some text. And you can add that. Interval. If you will learn how to do box charts, where you say this one shows the variation of the data. It's not the data, it just represents the amount of variation in the data. So use this as an interval. So treat it appropriately and draw it as an interval, not as a main data value. So you can say, this is my data, but the interval value is something else. Right? So you can specify that. Tooltip, you can say, whenever you hover over this point, display some different text. Right? So you can have columns for many such things, which you can add to your data table. So data is there. Along with the data, you have columns for all of that. Let's see how we can do this. I've linked to the documentation. There are many more other things. These are the most commonly used ones that you'll end up using. So let's say we have our data. We can add this one more column. So we had 3 columns. I add one more column called style. And the role is style. You can see I have a new option here. I specified that this role of this column is style. It's not data. And now I can have 4 values for each row. So 0, tree cover, 13,000. Color is this. That means when this value is displayed, it will be rendered in this color. And you can have point size, line style, all of those things you can specify here. That means you can now control how each feature is rendered. Super helpful when you want to customize and have full control over your output.